Okay, it is 6:06. On December 10th, we'll call this meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded by Greenville Community Energy and Technology. If any other persons present are doing the same, they must notify at their time here. We call to order, and we have to do. Oh, we don't call to order for. We don't need to call to order.
Okay.
You ready? Oh,
I'm ready.
so
It's
okay.
recording.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So we'll move to the mayor.
Hi, so I just wanted I asked John, thank you for putting us up first.
Sure.
To say about the enterprise funds. We had the Department of Revenue come out and spend a couple of hours with us the Monday before Thanksgiving. And they were, to getting the tax rates certified. And they were very concerned about all three of the enterprise funds. And to make a long story short, they said that because we had 2 days to go, our city council meeting where we were going to have the classification hearing was, it's the following Wednesday. And they said that everybody's rates had to be up enough to support their enterprise funds. And then they pulled up on the screen just like this to show us what all of ours had done. The sewer, and I was trying to print that out tonight, but I couldn't find the dots to print it. Our sewer enterprise fund went from the retained earnings were about $1 million, and they went down to, or 970,000. They were down significantly to 100,000. The water enterprise retained earnings went from $1 million to 600,000. Yours as well went down from, I don't know, it was like 37,000 to 3,700. And they insisted, I knew that this was the sticking point. So I spent the whole weekend going through everything for justifications for why we were going to be okay on ours. And I said, went up on, as of January 1, we were going up on water and sewer 8.75 and 9.7 respectively. And then the septage, the charge that we had for septage was going from 11 cents to 15 cents, which was an increase of 40%. And they said, okay, but you're still not going to make it with that because it was an 18, like one was an 18% difference and the other one was like 14% difference. So I said, well, we'll have to go up again. We'll have to go up again. And they were like either within 6 months or a year to make sure that everybody was going to make it. I went back to look since then, just to see on water and sewer what we have been doing. And pretty much we've been going up almost every year, except last year. So we've gone up in 24 and 7 for water and sewer respectively. In 22, 5.7 and 3.4, 23, 7.5 and 9, none last year, and this year 8.75 and 9.7. But they were, all I want to say was, and I'll be quick, they were very firm on that the rates had to match whatever it was. So
can I ask, did
yes.
they give us a target of what they want us to have for retained earnings? As we have a ballpark of what we're shooting for?
What they wanted us to be was not having less than we had, not to be going down so much.
Okay.
So they didn't specifically say at all. So that would be saying something other than that was truthful. But
Yeah.
it was if you're not making the revenue estimate, which is actually what you say is your budget. If you're not making it, then you'll be hard pressed to get your it passed for the certification the following year. I have been in touch with, Marlo about that because I said, it really sounded like they thought we ought to do this again within 6 months. I'm not loving the thought of doing that because the citizens are already taking a hit with their water and sewer going up. But he said it actually with that, it sort of depends on the usage. Because if you have a drought, people use more water.
Yeah.
So I will be watching that closely, but I just wanted to tell you that that they were concerned about it. That was basically it.
Okay.
And So I didn't have much else to report other
Drugs
than.
help better, water.
Drugs help better.
You don't like to think of it.
Yes.
They do.
Oh, no, that was my scribble.
That's fine. It will,
Just so you know.
just so I can.
Okay. Hi, Steve. Hey, how are you?
And I have a picture of you. I can send this to you. I have a picture, because I couldn't figure out how to print this before I came tonight. As you know, I'm an IT wizard. These are, I'm just gonna send this, I think I have I'm sending this for the public to Fern's cell phone, because I have that.
Okay.
But your return earnings were for that, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll just say that out loud for the public.
Yep.
So, 37,849 to 3,977, and the year before is 41,583
Mhm.
to 37,849. While I'm here, can I say one other thing that wasn't on? Okay, on the Comcast thing, because I know that would be a sticking point. I am hoping that you get that done. I have spoken with Eileen Leahy today, and we could pay that bill after the work was
Yeah.
done. She'd do it in it. She said, I said it's important for the North Build, so I was advocating for this and getting it done. I will sign off on that after the work is done. I just wanted to say that out loud.
Okay.
That I want that to be done so that you can, because that money is all in one pot. As you saw, I sent something along for you getting, that person that wrote yesterday about increasing customers by going to Elm Terrace, et cetera, et cetera. So we're hoping that all gets done, but if you had any questions about that, we're here. That was.
We actually had spoken directly with the people doing the work,
Okay.
and they have just started.
Okay,
So there's other things that it's too much to go into right now, but we can follow up.
I
with
just
you-
wanted
with
you
you
to know
later,
that I was
but-
doing our homework. We would do our homework on that. I talked to our attorney as well, and he said not before, but
Okay.
after.
Yeah, we're gonna,
Right,
So I-
we'll have more to talk to you
I'm
guys
sorry.
about.
I just wanted to say, while we walked over to see you, I just wanted to say that I've done some homework on that as well.
I don't think I know everyone. I've seen Nevergo. How's that, everyone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do that again in front of me. He's our new CFO, and you want to go around the room and just say your name so he knows what it is.
Sure.
I'm Fern Smith, I'm the operations manager.
Oh, great.
I have emailed you.
Okay.
So
We know.
Yeah,
each
but I
other.
know,
I'm
yeah,
John
yeah.
Bunting, I'm the G.
Bill St. Dennis, the Chief Technology Officer.
Hi.
I'm Pamela, Commissioner Goodwin.
Jen Johnson, vice.
We know.
Okay, and David
Okay.
Russell is the fifth commissioner, and he's online.
Yes. he
And
is.
with
I am,
that,
hello.
to-
Also a
Okay.
commissioner.
All right,
Good to see
thank you,
everyone.
Mayor.
Thanks. Oh, no, that's okay.
I waved to him.
Yep.
Okay, it's okay.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the minutes from November 13th.
Yeah.
April 24th, June 6th, August 1st, and November 13th, and you did send those out.
I did, and I added in September as well, because I thought we had gone through it. I will say that there were originally, we had a typo. It's April 24th, and the first one I sent out said April 4th, because there was a typo on this too. So the proper date for that one is April 24th. These are, it'll be great when Kathy's back, because it's hard to sort of run and respond in the meeting and take notes at the same time. So I've been reconstructing these from transcripts from the videos, which takes a while. And sometimes it's actually hard to the transcript doesn't catch it, and it's hard to hear what people are saying. So if there are mistakes, they're mine in interpreting. And if you want to go through and suggest any changes, I would be happy to incorporate them into the minutes after.
And I will tell you that I don't know how it's done now. I guess it's probably still the same way, but forever, that would have been one of the clerk's office's things that they hated the most, is they did all minutes for all meetings by watching the video.
Yeah.
Because nobody has, to try and have a board member do, it's difficult.
It is.
Participate in do
It
minutes.
is.
And
It is.
nobody has paid staff that you want to pay a staff member. Well, on the school committee, we actually did have someone that was paid
did,
just to do
Yeah.
minutes.
Mhm.
That's what they did.
I will say with the transcripts is getting better as machine learning gets better. And now that we're sort of caught up, I can do it. I know Kathy has volunteered to do it. So just go through.
Can Kathy watch the recording and do
Yeah,
minutes from that?
yeah.
So I think for
Mhm.
maybe tonight, if that's fair to ask her to do that, that would be great.
Sure.
I'd love to
Sure. Sure.
release this from staff if possible. And if
Okay.
she's okay with that, that would be,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, first it takes some.
And then once you've gone through and changed, I will put them on the website. I'll put the agenda and the minutes, and I will also put the links, which I can get through GCTV, but Matt Conway, the city communications director, who has been really great to work with, I want to give him a little shout out.
Awesome.
I will have all the links to the actual YouTube so people can watch and they can look at the transcript as well.
Do you need a motion to accept or we're gonna not do that tonight?
If we can take, yeah.
I have one
Yep.
thing to ask about, and
Sure.
I don't know, maybe somebody can remember better than I. The only thing I noticed was on the June meeting, the one that David came a little later and we had all these city councilors here. I don't remember Counselor Gilmore being in the room.
She was.
She
Yeah.
was
Right
here?
behind you.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
She's
She was.
sitting over here. I've watched the
Yep.
video.
I
so
can remember, yeah, I can
No,
remember
she
who
was-
sat
She
where.
was over here.
Okay.
Yep, she did.
So-
She was.
I
And
wasn't
then-
present, but I watched it.
Thank
afterwards,
you.
so, yeah.
Well-
While the minutes are fantastic, it really wasn't a thank you.
Right.
Yeah. I
Thank
did it
you.
because that was really kind of an
A lot of good
important thing.
But it was a very important.
It was an
Yeah.
important thing,
Yeah.
so even though it wasn't technically, I thought it was for it, and for this one, for the record, it was 2 hours long, there was a lot of people talking, so in these minutes, I say transcript and video, and there were many topics covered, summation as best possible here. But
Great.
for more information, please see the
The
transcript.
minutes-
That was very
I mean,
dense.
minutes, it's not like in the courtroom where
Right.
court report takes everywhere.
Right.
No, I mean, technically, the minutes really only have to reflect the agenda and decisions.
And the motions.
And.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I was noticing you were typing a lot.
Yep. Right. Right.
What's required.
Motion, it was discussed, it was voted.
Yeah,
Right.
that's it. Yeah.
Do you have others that you like?
No, I just was gonna say, I usually take attendance at every meeting that I go to. I'm like, oh, they're here on remote. So, and I have some of the other ones that you don't need to have approved because we had approved
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Like there was one that Aaron came, the chief of staff sat right here.
Hmm.
We had a little mic problem and there was a few people, so I think for me, and we don't need to do it if people don't want to, but it's helpful to know who's here.
No, that does.
So it is.
But
it's
I'd like for
usually-
that to be
yeah,
active.
yeah.
It's not part of, as you just
Right,
said,
yeah.
it might not
Yep.
need to be part of the minutes, but I think
Yeah.
it,
Right, it's usually up.
Kind
at
of
the
helpful.
top.
Yeah,
No, you're right.
do
That's
it.
right. So
Right.
attendance,
Attendance,
agenda
right.
and
Also
motions. and
present
decisions.
and all.
Yeah.
So present means you guys, because it's your meeting, and also
Attendance.
present is every staff and
Everybody
anybody else who
Public,
shows up.
yeah.
So can I ask this question, because David is hybrid, should you actually on this one do a roll call?
Yes, we have.
yeah, we have.
Yes,
So,
yeah, it all has to be.
So a motion was made by Jen and seconded by.
I'll second it, yep. To approve these
And now
others.
we have to do. David,
Yes,
is that a yes or are you answering, like I was asking you?
it's both.
Is that yes to approve the minutes?
I to approve the minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Pamela?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So the motion carries.
Unanimous at six
That has to be
twenty-one.
reported.
wait,
Yes.
motion
To approve the minutes.
is unanimous
Yeah.
at 6:21.
Okay.
We don't have any public here. They don't know how to get here.
No,
I
no,
did
it
put
is,
it on Facebook.
Yeah.
we did, so,
Yeah.
that it's, I will follow up because now there are gonna be multiple meetings, so.
Yeah,
I think what we'll end up doing is we'll get our own.
yeah.
And we'll just have it done from there,
Yeah.
and I will work with Matt on that.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
we're
great.
not gonna be doing it.
Yeah.
We have an account that we can do it through, there was an issue because GCET does not have a city account, and for it to get through to GCTV and YouTube, it goes through the city software system, which it should. And so we found an email that we can use, so we can create an account. I will do that with Fernando tomorrow, and Fernando Fleury, the IT director, and by the next meeting we'll have it up. Okay. And so we won't have this problem again.
Okay, new business, price increase discussion.
Okay, so you did not close actually the open or close public comment. So,
Yes.
Even though they're not here.
so you still have to open
Public
it.
comment? Is there any public comment? No.
See, okay, seeing
I
none.
think I said that.
Okay,
I thought you
maybe you did. Okay, so as far as the price increase, we did not have a price increase last year. And for us, it's the same as for everyone else. Insurance went up, healthcare went up. The materials went up. People got raises. So like every other business in the country, we had costs go up and we were affected by inflation as well. A lot of telecom has seen some very serious inflation. And what I would say is that our increase, which is $2 a month for 30/30, and excuse me, $250 a month for 30/30 and $350 a month for 100 and 200. The average for Comcast is about $550. So we do still maintain a pretty good gap between the two. The internet went up an average of about 5%. And then on top of that, at the end, I will say we chose to do this in two parts, that we raised up prices by in internet only about 5%. And we also will be now passing through the convenience fee processing for debit cards. And I can talk to you about that a little bit in a second. And so the actual overall jump is more like about 7.3%. However, you do not have to pay that processing fee. And there's actually there are legal opinions from the Division of Banks in Massachusetts that talk about how this is legal. I will put this up somewhere on the site for people who want to look, because this interests people. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 procedures and criteria that you have to follow. The licensee has to use a third-party payment processor. We do. The consumer has a choice. They do. They can use the ACH processing system and pay nothing. They can come in and pay by cash or check and pay nothing. Any additional costs have to be paid or passed through to the third-party service provider. They are. We get billed for them. So the third-party servicer is completely independent. They are. Neither the licensee nor any of its employees, the licensee is us, may receive any direct or indirect compensation or consideration in any form from the third-party service. We don't. Neither the licensee nor its employees have any relationship, meaning outside of the professional one. We don't. And the amount of the fee needs to be clearly disclosed. We've already said it is a percentage. We've already sent that out. We will send out another letter before the end of the month, just saying it again. We do it by email to our customers. So they will have several, and we'll have a little script that if somebody comes in and pays, there'll be a little card that customer service can say, you understand there is a 2% processing fee, or you could sign up for ACH. We've had quite a few people sign up for ACH, but I doubt that it will all happen in the first month. So we will either collect that fee so we can pass it through and stop paying it ourselves, or we have been, or people will leave and go to ACH and we won't have that fee. And last year it was about $45,000 that it cost us to process those. So between those two, that's about a 7.3% increase. And if you realize that we haven't had any price increases in calendar 23 or 24, and the one in 22 is only $1, we're trying to find that balance. I would say the deficit for us this year was far smaller than it was in any of the other enterprise funds, so this should be more than sufficient. We were in the black because we didn't go on to the recap at all. And last year, you'll recall, we had two very large one-time expenses that we had to get rid of, which was CDBG and the final payment towards the holdover of the retirement payments, where we were left about $300,000 worth of debt that we had to take care of. That's all done, so we should be in a good position to add to retained earnings this year. And the mayor did get in touch with me and ask if she could come, and I was all for it. We should let people come and talk to us about things that affect us as an enterprise fund. We'd already decided that we were going to be going up in prices, and it all worked out. So
The only thing I would also add is ACH is not the only option. Besides credit card or debit card, people can pay cash, they send in
Right.
checks, there's, they can go into their bank and have the bank mail a check. So there's lots of different
Mhm.
options to pay. It is a convenience to pay with credit or debit.
the last thing is, I think it's a fairness issue, because if we're charging everyone,
The rest of the
we're
days.
people who are using it, and quite a few people do use ACH or pay in the way Fern said. They're subsidizing people who are using that, and I don't think we should be doing that. So I think there's a way, if people really don't want to pay this fee, there's several different ways they can not pay it. So I think it's fair, and I think that as far as the internet is concerned, we still save people quite a bit of money. We're still about 30 to 35% less than the true pricing from our competitor. They do a lot of hiding of what their additional costs are. For TV, this one's easier. We buy content. You don't get to show NBC or ESPN for nothing. You have to pay for it. And every single year, we've gotten some pretty hefty increases from our content providers through the contract that we run. And when we get an increase, we have to pass it along. We don't really add anything to it, but we pass it through. I will say that the only one who hasn't gone up yet, and I will be going up soon, is YouTube TV. Hulu with live TV has already gone up. Fubo has already gone up. All of the streaming live TV people have gone up because it's the same issue they have. They all get, and we, for example, we have to pay to carry channel 22. So all of that is folded in, and this year was around $6, and it likely will continue that way for a while. But we only really pass through what comes to us. Starts on January 1st. That's always a super fun day for everyone in customer service. Most people have been good about it, and you never go through this without somebody telling you you're the worst human ever for raising prices, but it is what it is. We talked a little bit about, could we look into the option of having a restricted access like in Internet Essentials. Originally, we were told we couldn't do that. I think now that was the result of not a very deep look into what's legal and not legal. So we are going to start looking into that. I don't promise anything, but the idea that after ACP ended, if there were people who qualified in the same way for at least some of those things. Some of ACP was very, very broad, but there are people that we could perhaps, outside of special things like bulk rates we do for grant buildings, like we would be doing or wanting to do at the Weldon. If we could find a way to do that, then I think we should look at it. I think we can't just lower our prices because we have to be self-sustaining. And I mean, that's clearly something that has to happen going forward. So we'd have to think about who could qualify. If there are people who are struggling after the ACP was discontinued, because I do not believe that's coming back, we should start taking a look at it and seeing what we could do. So,
ACP provided a subsidy to Comcast.
And us,
And
us,
to
too.
provide that discounted service.
something new might come along, but it's not gonna happen until the new administration, and then it'll take at least 6 months for that to happen, and likely a year. So there may be further subsidies. I do know that now that grant programs have really gotten us to the point where there are still very rural areas that struggle with connectivity, but there's been a huge amount of new people brought online in the last few years. We have grants this year to bring some of really the last people in Greenfield who have nothing they can connect to online. Once that happens, the focus will shift towards affordability. When that happens, my guess is there'll be a lot of lobbying that says, no, we're not going to charge less. You just need to subsidize us. If that's available to us, we will absolutely pass it on to GCET customers.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
John. When you said on the letter to the customers, our clear voice phone service price will remain unchanged. Is that what I would have called VoIP, VoIP?
Yes.
It is, okay. I thought maybe. And then would you go, I don't know what you mean by bulk, like over, like.
Bulk is something you do for a program where you are working with a big building, and you work with the owner of the building to provide a bulk price for everyone in the building. It assumes 100% uptake. The program for the Weldon has two different ways they can go, and we're actually, we haven't yet. We need to talk to the Weldon, because we can offer individual programs to people, or we can offer a bulk program to the Weldon and work with them to see if we could come up with a price that might be more attractive to people. We don't get to set that. The Weldon says we either want that or we don't. But it is an opportunity for us to talk to them about, if we charge a bulk rate, which is what we do for like enterprise customers. We have, for example, Penn, which is a very large gaming company, that we just charge a flat rate per internet per month. We have some other customers we do for the town too. So there's plenty of precedent for it. It's common. And then what happens is, generally speaking, whoever has this, what's essentially a corporate rate, it's a bulk discount is really what it is. The interesting discussions are they going to pass it?
Right,
We
you don't really control.
We don't really control that. We can recommend things to people. Right? And they might go, no, we don't want to deal with this. You just go and do the people who want to pick you up. But we haven't finished those discussions with them.
So back to rate increases, you may recall that my position is I feel that we should take a rate increase every year, and that should be like a default. I don't think we should skip rate increases. I think we can talk about what the number is every year, but I think just in terms of making it incremental and absorbable for people, I think we should, even consider let's be honest, inflation's 2%, 3%, 4%. We're going to need to have a 2% increase every year, and we could, I would just recommend that we kind of think of that as like a standing practice, or even a policy to consider that, and that we can adjust it. If we're having an incredible year, we'd be like, let's just not, or whatever. But I think that would be, I always feel like certainty and consistency is really the thing that people need. People hate surprises. It's hard for them to budget. And, there will always be people who object regardless. But I do think that just as a matter of policy, it would just be great. And I think that addresses maybe the underlying concerns of the DOR, the Department of Revenue. Like, their concerns are like, we have practices that ensure that we are not subject to political pressure and whims, but rather that are really fiscally sound, right? So
I think I agree, as long as there's a way to adjust for extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it's worth mentioning that DOR has experience with enterprise funds that are monopolies. That's really what they think about. They think it's as easy as just raise it up, because you can be as mad as you want at water or sewer. You can't go buy it somewhere else, but you can here. So it's a little less, it's hard to get them to understand that, because they don't really have any incentive to, and they're not trying to do anything bad. But if you want to make a policy that here's our baseline and we'll vary it as we need to in either direction, as circumstances of the year say, I don't have any.
When you're having, I know you're gonna have some conversations, in the coming days or weeks or whatever with different MLPs.
Mhm.
On some other subjects, is that something maybe you could ask them to see if that policy
Yeah.
exists out there?
Yeah,
Sure.
and it's
Um,
something that as we're developing our budget, then we could determine that, and then people would have a lot of runway. You know, like we set our
Mhm.
budget, whenever it is that we set our budget, it's all blur, I can't remember. But then there's multiple months for people to say like,
Right.
okay, the new budget was set with an assumption of a certain rate increase, that's coming in some months.
In the beginning, I thought it was really important for us to closely watch our competitors.
Mhm.
But at this point, we kind of have a sense after 5 or 6 years of what they're gonna do in any given year. And they were pretty much right where we projected they would be, although it was later that we actually got that information. So I think if we want to go to a baseline, as long as we're not locked into something unworkable, which nobody's suggesting, then
Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
would really just suggest that it be part of our budgeting process.
And
We
and
can do
I,
that and then let people know even sooner.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a little concerned. I think if I got this right, John, you said that we had about a 5% increase on internet, 7% jump on the other. But the letter that the mayor sent was talking about a 10% for the
That was,
enterprise fund.
that was.
That was for sewer and water,
was for
but
sewer
aren't
and
we
water.
to aim? Aren't we in any kind of a jeopardy if we're under? Okay,
Because
so
sewer
what
and
is it?
Water, from the numbers the mayor was describing tonight, sewer and water came up far short and ate into their retained earnings by quite a bit of.
Right, the Department of Revenue's goal is not for a certain gain, like a certain increase in percentage, it's for us to have a certain amount of retained earnings.
Right.
That's what they care about.
Right.
So they want to really, in principle, see us have a budget that leaves us with more money in the kitty.
Right.
And so that's, there's so many other variables in there because we haven't really talked about our budget. I mean, I think actually since you have come on the board, we haven't really done a lot of budget
No.
review. There's a
Not-
lot else
not
that
that
goes
I've
into
seen.
that, exactly.
Right.
And
And
this,
that's-
this is why
yeah.
I liked the idea of Ways and Means when someone was talking about a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, like
Yeah.
you kind of look at things
Yep.
and you aim here and this is the goal. I would,
We
prefer
normally
to
do
know
that a lot more. The reason why we haven't is we've been distracted by a lot of other mashugana. We usually
Right.
spend a lot more time
We did.
reviewing very detailed maps of
Right.
service and engineering and plans, and then what those revenues would be projected from that, and then the budget implications. So and I think I just want to say, like, there's one of the things that, for instance, the previous finance director said, which was sort of an implication that we don't do this, which was, it would be great if you did these things in budgeting. We do those things. That person wasn't here long enough to know anything about the practices.
Right.
And we haven't really had time to do a lot of those regular
Right.
practices because of all the other distractions. So I mean, this is
Right.
like, we're still trying to like feed over some stuff that has a lot more elements to it, but I
Right.
just, we'll get there. I think by the next meeting, we'll be in a position to.
Well, I was gonna say, after the next meeting, we're
Yeah.
halfway through the year. And
Right.
we will focus much.
Get back
more
to
on that, so
normal.
We can say where we're at.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of
whatever that is.
But
challenge.
there is a normal. We've
No,
had
I
a really good normal.
Yeah, we
It's,
have,
we look at
and
spreadsheets
this
and
last
maps.
year-
And yeah.
With ARPA funds going away and
Yep.
coming back, there's been a lot of issues that we've had to resolve.
Yep.
And I think we have come through most of them, not all of them. There are still
Yep.
questions that we have to work our way through. And
No, and I
and
just wanted
that's,
Yeah, but I want to be clear that our normal practice for the last several years is that we really we're working from those kinds of budget projections and looking at revenue and costs and
Right.
salaries and, anticipated increases in
Right.
our overhead. And so that's what really goes
Right.
into all this.
I mean, we're really, I think, February is typically, March or February is capital at least.
Right, so.
Yeah.
Right, so, and I think next month we can have a
We'll do
much
that.
more financially, and in the past, we've sort of done, we would touch on it at each meeting and then really quarterly have more sort of in-depth. And I think if we have a 6-month one, then we would have one, in our April meeting for the third quarter of the fiscal year.
But we have to submit our budget
For next
for
year,
next year.
right, and we'll be talking about that
February.
too. Right,
Whatever your
we'll
motion
be
is.
talking about that at the January meeting as well, so you're gonna get to it. It's
Yeah,
gonna
no,
be
totally. And
a
I
very-
would request if, I mean, since you're gonna talk to other MLPs too, I would love, I mean, if DOR is not gonna give us a rule of thumb, I would love, you know, I work for an organization that has a lot of commercial property, right? So we have our own rules of thumb about retained earnings that our board like operates by, right? Like how many, you know, what's it gonna take if we get a hole in the roof kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I would love us to have that, to have a sense of like, not what feels good, you know, being in the black feels good, but what really is our
I
goal?
think on a municipal level,
Yeah.
4%.
Okay.
Percent of your revenue.
Okay,
That's on a,
Right,
not
but
for,
it-
not
but
for, not for a, for an MLP or specifically, but I know like for stabilization accounts, I'm pretty sure the number used to be DOR wanted you at 4% of
Okay.
your budget.
And-
that's helpful.
And it will vary for MLPs that have 100 years of electricity, generation and billing behind them are gonna have much bigger retained earning ratio
Totally.
than telecom.
But what's
only.
our annual budget? What would 4% of our budget be?
Right,
should
so,
know that off the
right,
And what's our budget? 2.5 million?
yeah, for next year, it's gonna be about 2.5 million,
So
so.
I'll just let you do that.
And I would say that the rate that's in
I get that.
164.
100,000. Hey,
Well,
I need a calculator to do that. Really?
Yeah. And I will talk to them, the rate in 164 is 3%.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, you know, we should talk about that. We should talk about why we have the goals we do. I think, you know, if one of our goals, for example, is to not be an enterprise fund forever, that means we want to get to X level of retained
Yeah.
earnings. And how long will it take and how does holdover debt? And we've cleared away most of the operational debt. We still have very significant make-ready debt that we inherited, so we've still got to work through that.
Yep.
But all of those things are 100%, I agree.
And I think it just gets to, you know, every time you have a situation where you are, like, again, we are a real estate organization where we have to charge rent. We're a nonprofit, we still have to charge rent. When we are sitting on money, it's very hard for our tenants to understand why their rent isn't going down.
Right.
And we have to be constantly educating people about, like, you are sitting underneath a roof that's a multi-million-dollar roof. If we don't
Right.
have, you know, we have, and there's,
Right.
and that's just a constant process. But I think if we're very transparent about that and have some clear goals, you can say like, your rate, you know, your rates are gonna go up 3, 5%, whatever. Yes, we're also sitting on 3, 30, $100,000.
Right.
All that is part of doing business in a
Mhm.
transparent and
And we,
responsible.
and we already know, because it's been brought up at every Ways and Means, budget meetings since the dawn of time, with GCET, is that someone will say, what are you paying us back?
Right,
So if we had,
but we already do.
yeah, we already do.
Yes,
So they don't, that's a misunderstanding from people
Right.
that say that.
Yeah.
But if we had $500,000 in retained earnings, there would be people on the city council saying,
Give it to
give
us.
it to us.
And we
And
will
that-
always be working to educate
course,
people, you
of
know,
course.
and we subsidize the town, you know, operates on a bulk discount. You know, that is
Yes, and it-
passed on to every taxpayer and, you know.
actually, in the last couple of years, it shifted some, and what we really provide is a lot of VPLS services, which allow them to communicate all over town without having to go out to the internet, and it lets them do some things they want to do. Because we have people who can do that, a lot of people don't. And a lot of the value we're providing them has shifted from what it originally was to, they keep adding in new VPLS circuits and we just do it.
Yep.
And we
Yep.
bill them and discount it 100%. So, because
Right.
we want them to see that if you went out and bought this, you'd be paying a lot more money for this, or a lot of money, period. But it's just, I just add it because it's interesting to me that things shift and things change, and what the city needs change, and the IT department has their own goals about how they want to communicate internally and address security issues and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So they're in this building as well too. So we work with them all the time, and we're closing in on $100,000 a year of value that the city
Right.
would have to spend if they went somewhere else. It's in different places than it might have been initially, but we provide a lot of value to the city. So,
Updates on Northfield Gap and.
North Build, we're at the point where, the last make ready people, Comcast, who have a fair amount of work to do are beginning work. So we're getting told this, it shouldn't take very long. I'll believe it when I see it. So we're getting closer. I don't know. I don't think anybody's ever hit any timeline they've given us ever, have they? So it should happen.
No, for the audience.
Yeah. So
Watch ice roll.
Yeah.
if they say it's a couple of weeks, then you should multiply that by 3 or 4 because it just is that way. But it's another step closer to getting to the point where you could maybe talk a little bit about the IFB that has come back. We did get bids, so we are moving forward with that process as well, and we should be completed with make-ready work to be able to work within the time window of the IFB to get some of the construction that we will be doing, and we will have subs doing it for us. Do you want to just do a super quick review of the IFB?
Sure, we received 5 bids. The information, at least the bid amounts and such, are on the city website. Now we are just vetting the 2 lowest. They're within $4,500 of each other. And so we will pick a contractor and then start negotiating timelines and contracts and things.
Processes will go back with questions that are the same for everybody, and the people that we identify as finalists is the wrong word, but that's kind of the idea. And we ask them questions and we make the determination, yes, based on money, but also based on reliability and reputation in the industry, because you can put in a bid that looks low but isn't, because you're a ton of change orders coming, or you can put in one that looks really high, but say you'll never pay anything for any change orders. Most of it, we're looking at people who have a decently low bid that we know. And if we've worked with people in the past, that's certainly something that we are allowed to factor in. So it's really going to be a combination of the best price plus the people we feel will be the most reliable and do the best work.
Are these of the pole climbers?
Partially,
What exactly
yeah,
are
it's
they gonna do out there?
2 main things. The biggest portion of the whole thing is they're pulling the backbone, the 9,644 count and higher fiber. That's really heavy when you pull a mile worth of that cable, and there's some special machinery you need. There's special when you splice 144 fibers together. There's some, could we do it? Yes, it would take us a long, long time. And usually you work with people who specialize in that kind of work.
And this is what you showed last time?
Right, the
When-
backbone.
When they were
that
digging
map,
up and we saw the pipe,
Right,
that
right,
was what,
that's the
last
push.
meeting we had.
One area where we will go down underground because high tension lines come through town and they're low enough that everything gets pushed down. And there's no room for us on the very short poles underneath that. Most of it, they will go up because everybody will have moved now. That's the idea anyway. And they will be able to go through and put this up because they have bucket trucks that are stronger. They have cable raising systems. It's specialized work. The really heavy stuff is. The smaller stuff we do ourselves regularly, but you have to buy special trucks, and they're $280,000 to $500,000 for the truck, and you have to have people who buy special. It's called a butt splice, where you literally bring 2 together, and it's just a specialty work. The pole climbing is a much smaller part of it, but nobody here has pole climbing skill.
No, I just want to clarify for the public.
Sure,
I mean, I
sure.
thought that visual was great. It's like, look at that, we're on
Yeah,
our way.
I know. And what we will do is as soon as we get started, we'll take some pictures so you can see what's
Right.
going on. And as Comcast completes, there are some opportunities for us to start in some areas. So nobody wants to do this more than we do, because another part about raising prices is if we feel very comfortable that we'll get quite a few new customers up in the north part of Greenfield. And the sooner we get that, the better it is for everyone, really. This is, to me, getting this done has been top priority. That's why it's the first thing we talk about every time. The process of make ready, we do talk to other MLPs. And one of the first things all MLPs do with each other is commiserate over how miserable the make ready process is and how opaque it is and how one-sided it is. Because that's, we're actually have a couple of MLPs that we want to talk to about forming a cooperative, mostly for the purposes of having a louder voice to lobby, because a lot of the rules are the way they are, because we don't have $10 million a year to lobby at the State House.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and we're just one voice,
I
but
would
if
look
we
at it,
can
yeah.
put together 25 different MLPs
Totally. I
that
had,
could all speak together, I think that would make a difference.
yeah, I was actually talking to a woman who works for a hospital cooperative in Wisconsin. They have a lot of independent hospitals who've been able to stay independent by forming a cooperative so that they can share backbone services, billing services, marketing, personnel, and lobbying and things like that. And yet stay independent hospitals and not be part of a system and kind of lose services. And they use as the rural cooperative, the utility cooperative, the energy, the electricity cooperatives, because that's been so strong and robust in Wisconsin as like something that has kept independent rural utilities that deliver really high quality service. So I think there's really good like legal basis for sort of something
Well,
that
Dr.
would be,
164 spells it out.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
not, of course, it's all about electric and gas.
yeah,
But
But it all.
But it applies
it
to
all
us.
applies. And I think you're right. I just think it's time because there's just not, it's ridiculous that we're negotiating alone, right? When so many others have the same problem with the kind of monopoly utilities that, you know, have been the beneficiaries of a lot of our tax dollars and then act like all that shit belongs to them.
Yeah.
Because it really
My-
doesn't. We all paid for that infrastructure.
my agency, we're part of, we do it in the parents. I'm part
Yeah.
of Disney, 68. And we negotiate with the insurance carriers on how they pay us, who, you know, when something's, I got a fight with a company, it's easier when there's how much premium we have is 60 of us and say, hey, we're part of Disney. They listen to us a little bit more. So yeah,
That's
the-
awesome.
Right.
we do it.
I also think that, you know, it's worth saying again, most MLPs are really new.
Yeah.
5 years old or less. So I think in the beginning, a lot of people were like looking at other MLPs as competition, but I don't think
Right.
that's the case as much anymore. And a cooperative that really focused on political lobbying, but also, you know, are there any opportunities for cooperative purchasing for all sorts of?
So you got a
stakeholders?
policy written to address, you
Yeah,
know, yearly
right, just
increases?
share-
Right.
Share knowledge.
Well, that and sharing standards for different technologies.
Legal services, I'd love to have a legal
Right.
opinion about how much, you know,
Right.
retained earnings or things about
Yeah,
procurement.
Right.
That applies to us, applies to every MLP in the state. And like, why are we all paying separate lawyers
Right.
to get an opinion that really should apply to all of us?
Right.
And
I
again,
think there's a-
speaking with legislators. So I
Right.
love that. Yeah,
I think it's
time.
It is time to do
Remember
that.
when we were at the SNEPA planning conference?
Yeah,
Years ago or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it was true, like everyone in the room, like
Was-
Leverett was there and Concord or whatever, and everybody was like, well, we're really just doing our own thing and we're just
Right.
fine. And I think everyone's learned, like, you're not, you
Yeah,
end
you're
up
not.
bumping up against the same things, no matter how special your affluent town feels you are, we're all in the same boat, you
And
know?
we've had some quiet conversations. We're not far down, I'm not gonna say we are, but I do think it's something that we want to begin to push a little more. And
Awesome.
I think there are a couple of groups that do their own thing and some groups that do stuff for them and for some other people. And I think we could get to a useful amount of MLPs if we can do it right, which
Yeah.
assumes that we do it right. And I think at that point, then, you know, when you're talking to not just one legislature, but a whole bunch of them, because we touch on a lot of different legislative districts, I think that really matters. It really matters when you have 3 times as many people willing to sponsor a bill you're pushing. So,
We have 3.
right.
Yeah,
But
now we're just,
it's
maybe we'll
really-
miss another one next time in the
It is,
district. Maybe
but
we'll get-
if you look at bills that are working, they have 24 thirds.
Right, that's right.
Those-
Yes.
So I know. And
That's what's gonna
really
take.
what you
Yep.
need.
Yep,
You need that
totally.
many. So, and fortunately, MLPs are all over. Doesn't have to be contiguous. They can be anywhere. There's
No,
lots of
and we really
MLPs on
need-
the Cape.
Yeah, and I mean, every MLP could kick in $5,000 and afford to have a full-time staffer and, you know, lobbyists, this would really take us far, and it's,
I agree.
you know, yeah.
And I think it's
Great.
much more evident to people that that kind of thing would be good for all of us.
Yeah, awesome.
So,
So where are we? We're at, retrofit?
Yeah.
Or gas, excuse me, yeah.
we had our first meeting with MBI. I know you do wanna.
Yeah, I mean, it was the
Characterize
first
it,
of
maybe.
monthly meetings to discuss where we were, and essentially we discussed October in December. And so we had our initial forms that we had to make sure that we were all on the same page, sent them in yesterday. And these are initial forms that they have to send to the federal government, because it is using, federal ARPA funds. And from here, we'll have monthly meetings discussing where we are. Everybody knows the make ready process is the beginning, and budgeting and all the things and making sure we're on target. One thing that we heard that I thought was really great was they are having monthly meetings with the utility pole owners, whether it's who is it? Eversource,
Right.
National Grid, Verizon.
That was for the express purpose of saying, you need to stay on the schedules that you set because your record of doing that is very, very poor.
Yeah.
And you need to budget in a way that says, you know, there will be no giant surprises.
And
Make
having-
Ready has costs and timelines have ever since they won the final lawsuits and were able to make people, by law, you have to sign a contract to be able to do it. They've just spiraled upwards at many times the rate of inflation. So it's just a revenue stream and even if the people we're working with can be good to work with, the overall process is terrible. And anything we can do to have the state help with that is something we need.
And state representatives will be on the calls as well.
Right.
So.
So beyond that, we've done most of the network engineering. We've done a lot of that work. We're coming up on a first milestone where we can do some billing towards them. Not quite yet, but we have a little bit more. We've gotten some mixed signals about what we can bill when. So we're setting up a meeting with straight up the money people and the financial people. So we can make sure that we bill everything within the arcs of time we need, that everything gets billed before the end of the fiscal year and we get reimbursement before, which they're amenable to. It's just the process, setting it up. And then we have to work with Steve Nemberkowitz to make sure that there's an account set up on the city side for all of us to work through, because that's how grants work. But, you know, so it's really mostly like getting processes in place and beginning what will be mountains of paperwork by the end of it. And that's just how grants are. And you just take it one bite at a time and keep moving. But so far, they've been pretty good communicators, and it looks to us, I mean, the next step is really getting make ready stuff ready. And they have clearly heard everyone. They said to everyone, what's your biggest problem? And every single group they worked with said make ready is impossible. So,
And I just want to back up to the very basic point for the record, just for people like to understand how grants work. We don't get the money and then spend it. We have to bill and get reimbursed.
Right.
And we have to, and so it's basically like after the fact repayment effectively of the cost.
And we are different, and so that's why they are working with us. We are the only MLP, the rest of, so our build out for the gap is 100% paid for with grant funds, where everybody else had to pay a percentage, right? So we're very different, and we do have a fiscal year that's off and very clear. Just like John said, they're happy to work through that and make sure that they process the payments. If we've spent the money, it is ours to make sure that we get reimbursed before the end of that fiscal year.
They've been good.
Yeah.
They've been good.
Yeah, it's
So,
great.
residential retrofit, that we had a meeting with them that was pretty much the same. It's really setting up those kind of processes. There's some meetings to have with, the building owners, but that's moving along. That will likely not be as long a process. The gap networks will take all of the 2 years because of make ready. This one, we hope, because there's very little make ready, we could move along more quickly. But we're at the same point where the little make ready there is next. The engineering is mostly done. So you start with, how are we going to do it? Who do we have to get permission from to do it? Who do we have to come in and do the work? It's sort of basic buckets that you work through. And, we're at the stage where we get all our processes set up and you just execute it and work through it there. So I think both of those, I'm sure before the end, something will come up that will make us go, ooh, okay, we got to figure this out. But at the moment, they're moving along smoothly. Athena Bradley from the city's been very helpful. We've hit the milestones we needed to hit, which means they know that we've shown them this is how we're going to do it. They know it's reasonable and will work. And the next thing to do is talk more with the building owners. We had talked about if we want to go back and talk to people in the building too, and we can do that.
Did you get permission from Dominica? I think you to Peter or Dominica.
I first reached out to Peter and haven't heard
Okay.
something. So I don't think there's anything other than people are busy behind that. They've been really good to deal with.
Yeah,
So,
we have, our tenant meeting is this week. So
Okay.
I'll just say, I don't know anything because they're gonna wanna know. And we were
Right.
shooting for a
Well,
date.
you
but-
can tell them that we have finished the engineering and we are working with the grant providers to go through the process of getting what make ready is needed to be done. So you can say the route design and the engineering design is complete. We're working but we have to get on just a couple of poles till we can get to the point where we can put in conduit and come in through that way. So that's we're starting that process. And then
The other part of both of these, and
Yeah.
mostly retrofit, is there is a procurement portion of it.
mhm.
That was my
And
next question.
And retrofit, as far as I can tell, because based on the build out inside, it'll be a lot more detailed. And there are going to be special requirements of the contractors that we have not dealt with before. The city is losing their procurement officer on the 12th. There is nobody replacing him. He was an interim, procurement officer, so he helped me with this IFB that we've done. I'd mostly done it before, but he just, checked it to make sure it was all legal, and followed the process. He's been really helpful. And so I can do that to an extent, but I think the IFB portion, we will have to do an IFB for retrofit.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think we have to do one for GAP as far as the engineering and the design. We will have to buy the equipment. But the retrofit, the longest portion of that will be the IFB portion and scheduling a contractor and getting the equipment that we need to do the build out inside that.
So I think they're just looking for a chance to come and have you come over, John, and speak with them. I mean, even a question like, well, I don't know how to get out using Xfinity.
Right.
Basic, and if you, I don't know if these rates are what you'll be talking about, or if you're just would not have to say, we don't have rates
because
yet.
I would, and I won't talk about that because we have to meet with
Right, you
shop
have to-
and-
yeah, I
and
know.
Talk about that. I can say a version of what we're talking about here. And that, we will be talking with the building about how they want to handle it. The building isn't required to choose bulk or the individual option. It's really up to them.
And if they choose bulk, within grant, we had to be specific about the pricing and the options that Shaka had. And then we have to go back and say, if you want the bulk, you know, if the bulk ends up to being a certain speed for everybody, if somebody decides that they want a higher speed, they can have that and pay the difference. And so working through what that looks like at a end user level as a consumer level,
Mhm.
we're not there yet.
No.
And even talking to them about how to get out of their contract.
Yeah, I
with
don't want to
Comcast
be
or
the
something.
representative of any of it. I
That
want
is-
John to come,
yeah.
but I think Dominica has to say, sure, come on over and have.
Yeah.
They wanted to do it not during coffee hour or a tenant meeting, but
Sure.
just have you come over, because you and I were
Right.
talking about a date.
And-
So if
and
you can get a hold of this woman.
Yep, I will.
Then I
and-
can reserve the room and we'll say to everybody, anybody want to come in and have a conversation?
And
Not
general.
promising them much, but just to
No,
talk.
because really where we are, we can give a very general overview. of
Yeah,
how
I
they
think that's all they
go
want.
along.
They
Yeah,
enjoyed the last time. It was just too confusing with that table and this
Right.
table.
Right.
So
Well,
we
and
just
I
want a special
think it's a
meeting.
way to say to them, we haven't forgot, we're here, we're working.
Yeah.
We're gonna tell you what we've been doing, but you've been here for the last couple of months, and that doesn't mean we're done.
Yeah.
But I think just checking in with them and saying, hey, here we are, still, this is still going forward. This is
Yeah.
what we've gotten done, I think is really important.
What's the anticipated, you said 2 years for the gap. How long do you think, all things be equal, for the Weldon build out? You think is it a 18 months?
I mean, I think our timeline would have to go back to the timeline within the grant. Personally, I think we will probably be earlier than the timeline that was in the grant, but it all, again, comes down
So
to.
just roughly.
I think 18 months is
Okay.
probably
So,
a good
I mean,
place to start, if we can do better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I'm a person who likes routines. So like, I think, something to consider is just having like a meeting every 90 days just for the residents, so that they know that there's a thing on their calendar and they can bring their questions and not,
And we've started
yeah.
to talk about that.
Yeah, I think that would just, just,
I would bring shock it in. Because
yeah,
what we don't want to do is go too far along without the building feeling like, because the building is the recipient of the grant.
Yep.
Contracted
Yeah.
with us. So we want to just build it to the point where everybody's feeling good that we can sit down and talk, which we can, I think. So
To clarify, we're the grant, we are getting them.
we are, but the way it works is that NBI turns around and contracts for us on behalf of Shaka.
Yeah.
Right, so,
they're the beneficiary.
Right,
right, they're the beneficiary.
You're the insurance.
Right.
Over the hard holidays, yellow tape every.
Yeah, well, I think what I'm first gonna do is just
Pricing.
Start looking at stuff.
completely close off. I was thinking I would just close off Pamela's apartment completely.
Yeah. They keep talking about the hotels and how there's black boxes and they get internet all over these, they're equating it with some stuff, and I'm like, don't ask.
Right,
I don't know about that. Yeah, well, in a hotel, you just have a little black box, but they're still talking about how they're historical building and it can't happen. I mean,
Yeah.
if you could just tell them that,
yeah,
they don't care what I say. Cause I keep
Yeah.
saying, watch YouTube, please.
Yeah.
Call here. I keep saying, call over. There's a phone number, go call them. No, they don't want to. They just want to give it to me, right? And I
Yeah.
don't want to misinform anybody either.
Sure.
So,
So we'll follow up.
I mean, maybe Dominica would want to have you come in at the same meeting and then
Sure.
whatever she wants to do, because she's in charge.
Yes,
It's a nightmare. I mean, the internet in the hotel is just garbage. I mean, it's just,
Oh,
It's like cruise ship.
Don't ask
They're
them,
back, there's.
Oh, it's terrible.
don't ask them.
My
to pay.
company.
That'll be better. That was all we had. Yeah. So we don't have anything else.
See how easy that is?
I stopped
You stop
typing.
typing.
Well, you're not done.
Hi.
yet. Do a roll call.
And do
Oh,
we have
to
a next
adjourn?
meeting, do we have a next meeting on the calendar?
It's the second
We
Tuesday.
do, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're-
we have
we're-
invites for them?
No,
Okay.
no, I will do
You
them
said
this
calendar
week.
invites?
I
Thank
will
you.
do them this week. Just second Tuesday of the month at 6 PM is our baseline.
Okay, put it on there, but.
Okay.
All right, so we would need a motion to adjourn
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
in a second, and then a roll call. David, you still there?
I am still here. Aye.
Hi.
Emma?
Yes, let's adjourn.
Yes, sir.
And yes, we are adjourned.
Okay,
So
so we'll
meeting-
be ending the recording.
Motion